Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bells Must Ring podcast. I am your host, Andrew Rice, here with my usual co-host Arnav Sarkar. A lot of big news happening in the world of Rutgers athletics today. One big news that could not go unaddressed and could not wait for a weekend episode. So we decided, you know what? It's time for emergency podcast. Um, Yeah, I guess it's going to be a little bit of a special episode series. If you ever see one of those pop up on your feed, it means that some major news has broke inside the Rutgers athletics community. Before we get to the headline of today's episode, I did just want to mention I understand that there's a lot of concern with the changing interface with onthebanks.com. There was an article released recently detailing the whole situation and what people can do to log into their accounts should they be logged out with the new and changing interface. I recommend you go and take a look at that article, read everything that it has to say, and that way, when the interface does change for onthebanks.com, you'll still be able to access everything that you need. With that being said, I know we're usually kind of Debbie Downers on this podcast, but we finally have some great news for you guys today. Rutgers has hired a new AD. LSU Executive Deputy Athletic Director Keli Zinn is going to be the new athletic director of the Scarlet Knights. Um, I I think this is going to be a very, very good, very fruitful pickup for Rutgers. Um, Somebody that has experience working with President Tate, somebody that has experience in a major college athletics program and has been a part of a very successful college athletics program. Has been an interim athletic director before for West Virginia. Somebody that comes with a load of experience. You know, before she was the deputy athletic director for LSU, she was the deputy athletic director for West Virginia. So you're talking about somebody that was referred to as a up and coming rising star in the world of college sports administration, and Tate was able to take over the search and convince her to come be the new athletic director for the Scarlet Knights. I uh, I'm still not thrilled that the search took this long, but with everything that we've seen so far, you really can't be disappointed with the result. What do you think about it? What do you think, Arnav?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it was a bit of a stressful process. It seemed to get worse before it got better. Obviously, the firing of, the search firm Turnkey on ZNG or whatever its name is. Turnkey, ZRG, and then obviously Ryan Pisari leaving for Tufts, appointing a second interim director in Matt Colagiovanni, who I presume is still going to obviously be on the staff. But I mean, I don't think Rutgers could have gotten like a better hire. Like I know Rutgers, they were looking for someone kind of in like a business mold, like obviously someone like Brian LaFemina, someone or Mike Polisi, they kind of wanted to take an outside approach to this. But obviously that didn't really pan out the way they wanted to. I think President Tate taking control of the search was a big boost. And I think he really picked someone good. I think having alignment, I've heard a lot about alignment in the athletic department today and in the last few days. Having people who are really, promoting athletics throughout the university, having, alignment in management, I think is very important. And I think he definitely brought someone that he knows and he trusts. Obviously, so like a lot of experience. I mean, she started as like a compliance assistant for West Virginia, the Big East, Maryland. I mean, she worked as the deputy athletic director and chief operating officer for West Virginia for 8 years. The same, holding the same position with LSU for the past 3, and then both Tate and her. And then under their athletic director Scott Woodward. I mean, they had a very successful run at LSU. I mean, they won 4 national championships across all their sports, including 1 in gymnastics, 2 in baseball, including this year's national championship, 1 in women's basketball. I mean, they've done an incredible job with NIL, which is something that Rutgers has been very behind on compared to its competitors, especially. I mean, she helped build LSU's NIL program, which is called NILSU for LSU athletes. And, some of its biggest stars have had major NIL deals, which is why part of the reason why they've become so, profitable, but also successful on and off the field. I mean, we're talking about Livy Dunn, who has like a $4.1 million NIL valuation, obviously one of the world's most famous gymnasts. We're talking about quarterback Jane Daniels, who won a Heisman Trophy. We're talking about, the pitcher Paul Skeens, who's now, doing incredible with the Pirates, and women's basketball player Angel Reese, who's now in the WNBA, one of the biggest stars of that. So, I mean, across sports, LSU has just been dominating in the field. I mean, baseball's obviously huge. Football's huge in the SEC. I mean, LSU's been, they were in the SEC championship game a few years ago. They, obviously took an L to Georgia, but I mean, still to be able to compete at a high level, they won
To
10
be
games.
there, to
Yeah,
be there is such an
SEC
accomplishment.
championship. Exactly. I mean, in that kind of a conference, it's tough. I mean, you have Alabama, you have Ole Miss, you have Georgia, you have programs like that in the conference. LSU 2 straight, 10 win seasons in 22 and 23, 9 win season in 24. So a little slight drop off, but still a upper echelon program in the very competitive SEC. One of the 2 power conferences in football, obviously. So I mean, their football
I,
team very strong. So I mean, which she was like directly involved with as the primary sports administrator for football and gymnastics. So obviously playing a big role with both of those. Obviously, gymnastics has a new coach and everything, and they made the national tournament for Rutgers too. So I mean, Zinn could also have a big influence in building that program. And for football, and all the other sports, I mean, we definitely know that we have someone who understands the business side of this, how to raise funds, whether it's she spoke about raising capital the old-fashioned way, as well as having a good NIL approach for Rutgers athletes, which has definitely been an area where they've been lacking. And I guess she wants to use like the New York and Philadelphia, the local media markets, to get better deals for the Rutgers athletes, which is a very good idea. And she was also involved with facilities for LSU. I think she had a plan to rebuild the Pete Maravich Center in LSU, where they played their basketball games. And obviously, like, she could bring that same energy to Rutgers, where, Jersey Mike's Arena is, expected to undergo a major renovation. I heard Baton Field, the same thing. So, I mean, across the board, like whether it's money, financials, academics, she spoke about that too. Having a balance between high level academics and athletics, which I think is very important. Getting the academic side of the university on board with athletics and what they could do for Rutgers brand and image, and making sure the student athletes are, getting the proper treatment and everything. So, I mean, I think she, from the financial side to the academics to athletics, performance on the field, the business side of it, she's very strong. So I think Rutgers really hit the nail on the head. I think they brought someone who's proven that they could do it at not one but 2 big time schools, West Virginia and LSU. I mean, like, I think if you can make it in the SEC and you can like manage an athletic department there, especially when like LSU has won multiple national championships, she can bring a lot of that to Rutgers. And obviously under the influence of President Tate, who's also from LSU previously, I think, like I said, there's a lot of alignment. And I think they could bring the best from the LSU side of things, and also integrate it with what makes Rutgers great as a university as well. So I think it was a really good hire. I'm really excited to see what she does for the financial situation at Rutgers, and the NIL in particular, because I know that's the main area where Rutgers has been behind some of its competitors in the NIL fundraising.
well, first of all, you're talking about Rutgers going and essentially picking some pieces one of out of a program that was on the cutting edge of NIL when NIL was first introduced. I mean, when you think of NIL, you think of who? You think of Livy Dunn. You know, I think she was the first major NIL earner and ended up being like the fourth highest grossing by the time she graduated. I could be wrong there.
Yeah,
But she
very
was
yeah.
she was for a while the face of the NIL argument, essentially, because she was making all that money, like doing TikToks and all that other stuff. She was
Right.
the face of that
And brand
of
deals and
of
stuff like that.
NIL, and
Yeah.
who was at the forefront of that? LSU. And not even just that, but who managed the gymnastics team or who worked with the gymnastics team while she was at LSU? Zinn. Zinn did.
Right. Exactly.
You're talking about somebody that has had the highest women's basketball earner for the 2025 season, I believe, in NIL under for the 2024 season. Sorry, in NIL under her program, I believe. I could be wrong there, but one of the highest was from the LSU. You know, Angel
Yeah.
Reese certainly made a good dime for LSU. Jaden Daniels was up there. Libby Dunn is like the poster child for the NIL
And
argument,
I, yeah.
or at
Hmm.
least was for a while. So you're talking about the taking care of the players and taking advantage of um, the market.
Yeah.
I mean, now give somebody like that New York and Philadelphia to play with. There's a lot of possibilities there. Um, when it comes to like, their rejection of Turnkey, where they were all like, where they were like, oh, we're parting ways with Turnkey, and Turkey originally wanted to find somebody that was outside of the box, and you could understand their thinking too. You could understand trying to find somebody from the business administration side of things, to help guide a increasingly business oriented college football world. Instead of that, or because they wanted to get somebody out of the box, that's perfectly fine, and you could totally see their thinking here there. But instead, why don't we go and get somebody who who has been a pioneer in the college football business administration or college sports business administration landscape? Somebody that has seen what has been going on and has been adapting to it perfectly and has been at the forefront of those adaptations. I don't think you could get. I think that's probably your ideal candidate, because what's the problem with hiring somebody an outsider? They still have to learn the ins and outs of college athletics. This is somebody who already has that business savvy that we were looking for, and is
Hmm.
already a college athletics insider. They don't
Yeah.
need to adapt. They might need to adapt to Rutgers, but they don't need to adapt to the college athletic side of things because they've done it before. I
Yeah.
don't think you could really ask for a better candidate or a better somebody really more qualified. Um, you're talking about somebody that has been referred to by several athletic directors in both the SEC and the Big Ten as like the next big commodity. So, especially working alongside somebody like Greg Schiano, who has already proven that he could be a very good fundraiser on his own.
Hmm.
The way he's managed to keep his program afloat despite what seems to be the ship collapsing around him, so the ship sinking
Yeah.
around him. He's able to keep his program afloat. And while I'm going on my rant about football and Zinn and Schiano, um, there is a quote that Schiano told NJ.com reporter Brian Fonseca today that I feel like I should read aloud for you guys. He mentioned that he is very excited about the opportunity to work alongside Zinn. He's never worked with her, obviously. I don't even think that they've met, because in the quote he says, I don't know her, but a lot of people that I'm very close to have and speak the world of her, and are excited for us to have her here. That to me is great. Haven't met her yet, but have communicated and really look forward to working with her and building this thing. continue to build this thing to where we all know it can get to. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like the boats are rowing in the same direction. You know, Shano has somebody that seems very that has proven to be very willing to work with the athletic department, or has come out as very pro athletics in University President Tate. Now
Right.
he has an athletic director who seems to have all of her ducks in a row when it comes to adapting to this new changing world of college athletics. And then you have Shiano, who was there keeping his program afloat almost, well, not single handedly, but the program was almost single handedly keeping itself afloat while all the other programs were sinking. So now it's like all the canoes are rowing in the same direction. The president has is now behind the athletic department. The department has an athletic director who has experience and has been on the cutting edge of this evolving college athletics world. And those are two things that Rutgers has never seen. I mean, for the longest time, presidents were often hostile to, or at least maybe not hostile, but indifferent towards their athletic department.
Right.
You know, and that we've seen that. We've seen that with um, a lot of the presidents that came before Shiano. We saw it with Pat Hobbs, who openly rejected the concepts of NIL and openly ignored them on several occasions. That or that communicates to me somebody that's not willing to work with anybody. And you know, it finally seems like we have everybody rowing in the same direction. Hopefully, it stays that way. Um, but it just seems like now everybody's on the same boat, because for the longest time, Rutgers either didn't have a president that was in the same boat, or didn't have an athletic director that was in the same boat. Because even Holloway as president, he wasn't exactly like very pro athletics either. You
Yeah.
know,
It's like
they
kind of
did.
in the middle, I would say, but like, yeah.
What I mean by presidents that were pro athletics, I usually mean like the presidents that came before, like Shiano turned the program around in the early
Mm.
2000s. Because before that, Rutgers didn't have much like academic supports for their student athletes. They like really did not have anything going for the athletics program at all. And then you have, you know, our previous athletic director who proved openly hostile to
Right.
um, our NIL collectives, which they're trying to help. You know, they're trying to help you do
Yeah.
better.
Hmm.
So I don't know what that was about, but it finally seems like we have president, athletic director, football coach, and I include football coach in there because it's really football that, you know, that's the moneymaker.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then based on what we saw today, it seems like Peichel and them are nothing but thrilled to fall in line too. So your secondary moneymaker is there as well.
Yeah.
It's just it's so nice to see everything rowing in the
It
same
really,
direction.
it really is. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, yeah, to have all the ducks in a row, like, yeah, to have a president who in Tate who both supports like academics and athletics. I think that's one of the things that Zinn talked about, like how his balance of supporting the two together at LSU. I mean, was like something that inspired her, and that obviously like the two of them worked together at that university, and that's something that she looked up to and tried to implement herself. Um, you know, more and more as she continued at LSU, and now she's here with him. And Obviously, like, yeah, like you said, like a president who supports NIL and at Rutgers, like who really supports and believes in athletics, and who's not going to be opposed to, spending money if the money is necessary for athletics, and then an athletic director who's cutting edge, who has experience, who basically helped create LSU's NIL program, which I talked about NILSU and all the fundraising that they've done, and some of the NIL deals that some of their major stars have had. I mean, have been millions of dollars. And I mean, just the creative ways that she's like went about all of that. I mean, another thing that I didn't mention was that she actually forged a partnership with Amazon Prime to make a documentary called The Money Game, which followed LSU student athletes, and it earned them NIL money. So I mean, that's another, these creative things, like whether it's that or whether it's brand deals or social media posts, like what have you, like and then she talked about, like I said, the New York and Philly markets obviously being very nearby, and utilizing those to create more NIL opportunities with all the major, big brands that are literally less than like 2 hours away, like 1.5 hours, from Philly-ish, and, an hour from New York. I mean, all the possibilities of NIL coming through there. And then she also, mentioned, of course, fundraising, raising capital, talking to donors, like all of that kind of stuff. And then, of course, Greg Schiano, he has been doing that for so long on his own. He's been able to, really, sell people on his team. And, the basketball programs maybe have been a little bit behind on that, but I think Steve Peichel is definitely, excited and willing to, to work with her and work with the athletic department and building the basketball team up, because obviously that was a major issue in terms of, putting that was a major issue in terms of putting together the roster around Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. Things kind of fell apart for the basketball team. A lot of that was due to a lack of NIL funds and a lack of good roster construction. So obviously a lot of that would definitely go a long way in the basketball program. So I mean, like you said, from president to AD to football coach, basketball coach, like the key word's alignment. And I think now that the whole department is unified, that I think the next step is going to be convincing. I mean, like putting a strong case together for athletics, that or for the rest of the university, that Rutgers athletics is not only here to stay, but I mean, it's a vital part of the university. It's what brings in dollars. It's what attracts students. It's what brings the community together. It's what can get
It's what
better.
pays your salary.
Exactly. And it's something that can win championships. And I think that's another thing that she said that I think was, really struck a strong tone right in the beginning of her press conference, that she said that, she's kind of in the same tone of Greg Schiano at Big Ten Media Day. Like, we're not just here to compete, we're here to win. We're here to, yeah, we're here to win conference and national championships, and we're going to recruit and retain talent. She spoke a lot about that. She spoke about, like I said, the academics and athletics, and, fostering a relationship with the Rutgers campus, the students, the community, and of course, like the NIL. So, I mean, like, she definitely covered all the important things but I think it's really important to make it known to like the people who might be a little bit skeptical of Rutgers athletics, that, hey, this is something that can work together with academics. This isn't something that should be opposed diametrically to academics. This is something that can work together, bring the university more fame, more prestige, more accolades, and grow the brand altogether. So I think putting those two together, I think, which she definitely has a vision to do, I think is gonna would definitely ease a lot of the tension, because I know with Rutgers especially, there's been a lot of tension, but with that kind of stuff in the past, whether a lot of people feel like they might be wasting money and stuff. But I mean, the way that she's been able to the way they've been able to manage LSU and keep that balance. I mean, being able to bring that to Rutgers and bring the results, I think is gonna hopefully change a lot of minds that aren't as passionate and as committed as we are, covering this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I like it's everything you said. Like the alignment part. I love that they use that too, because like I
Yeah,
said, all the ducks are now swimming in a row. It seems. Um, Also, with the speak about wanting to win championships, like you said, who did that sound like? Almost the exact same tone of voice.
yeah, mm-hmm.
It sounds exactly
Yeah,
what Shiano says, and like it's all about alignment, and that goes back to the alignment, making your goal clear to win championships. Both coach and athletic director are saying that, and they're openly saying that. They're not like, they're not shying away from it. They're not saying like, oh, we're here to lead or whatever. But they're openly saying we are here to win championships, and that's the alignment that we need. I did just want to go through a little bit of her qualifications because we talked about how she's very experienced, and we didn't really elaborate enough on that. Um, she, after she graduated from West Virginia in 2002, she worked for the university as a compliance assistant for 2 years. After her time after her time as the assistant, she moved to Maryland University, where she also worked as a compliance compliance. Oh my God, she worked in the compliance department for 6 years, spending the last 5 years as assistant athletic director of compliance. She would then go back to West Virginia in 2010 to be associate athletic director for governance and compliance and the executive senior associate athletic director before becoming the interim AD in 2014. That is a lot of titles.
Yeah.
um, once, sorry, what's the name of the permanent athletic director? Once Shane Lyons, I hope I said that correctly, was hired, she became the deputy athletic director, which was her same position at LSU. She stayed there until 2022, until she left to take the same role at LSU, where she's been since that. Um, One thing I am seeing is that on her resume, I'm seeing essentially three different athletic director positions on here. Might not be the big one, but I'm still seeing like
Yeah.
associate athletic director, deputy athletic director, deputy athletic director slash COO. You know,
Right.
I'm still seeing it. You know,
Yeah. Interim AD in 2014. Like she did that
interim
too
AD.
for West
Yes.
Virginia. So I mean, she's definitely held a lot of these like assistant. Like I think she also talked about that in her press conference how he's been like the assistant coach for like 20 years, and I think William Tate was able to give her like the like it's time for her to become the head coach, and I mean I think she definitely has like more than enough experience. I mean she might even be like one of the most experienced to take this kind of position at Rutgers, if not the most. So I mean definitely brings a lot of experience in college athletics, from compliance administrator, all the way to
Well,
associate athletic director, and deputy athletic director and COO for many years for two different big time schools. And then of course like the work at LSU, I mean I think speaks for itself and what she did over there, which we already talked about. So I mean like yeah, I mean I totally agree like with what you're like the experience part. I think is definitely there, and then her vision and like the way that she's been able to use NIL, use like funding, and isn't afraid to win, like all of those types of things. I think those are just going to be really those are going to be really big things for this university, that we're going to have, like you said, the alignment and people across the board who want the same thing, and who are going to fight for the same thing for their athletes, and really push Rutgers to get to that next level, because the money part just like hasn't really been there in the past, but compared to the big time programs and the Big Ten and nationally. So I mean in terms of the NIL war chest, but I mean she has a way of like, I guess like that the money thing that I was talking about, the documentary, like all the things that she did with LSU to be able to create these NIL deals. She's gonna bring like that kind of mentality to Rutgers, to find creative ways to create more NIL opportunities, and also raise funds, do a lot of fundraising. I mean I think another thing that would be interesting is, I mean, trying to convince the active like alumni base to donate to Rutgers. I feel like that's a pool like of untapped waters that maybe she could also she can make a difference in, because there's a lot of Rutgers alumni. We don't have quite the fan support or alumni like donor support as some of the other big universities. So maybe pulling into corporations, that could bring even more money than, and then of course the crowdfunding stuff that we do. We have Knights of the Raritan and all the collectives, and don't get me wrong, I really do enjoy that, and that could be a big part of it. But I think combining all of that with, corporate donors and alumni donors, bring all of the sources together, bring in that corporate, the bigger donors, as well as, raise the level of participation in things like Knights of the Raritan and stuff like that. I think those are all things she's going to try to do, as well as maybe create some new ones as well. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how this NIL situation goes about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One last point that I did want to mention before we get out of here today. We both talked about earlier about tapping into the New York Philadelphia market. In her previous job as the deputy director at LSU, she oversaw reworking of their multimedia rights partnership, which caused a 21% bump in essentially funding for the university. So
Yeah.
you're talking about somebody that now has two, I think the big, got to be the biggest media market on one side, and the
Yeah.
fifth biggest media market or something like
Yeah.
that on the other side in the United States.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In the United States, now they have that to play with.
Right.
You know, good things seem to be on the horizon for the Scarlet Knights.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in terms of the media or the multimedia partnership, I mean, I don't know if there's like an equivalent for that on the Rutgers side of it, but I mean, I don't know if that would be like Big Ten rights and stuff like that, or just like other things. But I mean, yeah, I mean, the fact that she was able to do that with LSU, I mean, bringing and then increasing, their ticket sales, like their merchandising, their donor support, which I just talked about, the NIL war chest, as we call it, to be able to, attract more players. I mean, now with the Supreme Court, the ruling and everything, having all this revenue sharing and having these salary caps, I mean, it's really opened the door for, so much more NIL management with these programs and stuff like that. So I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how she can bring all of those different things up for Rutgers and raise more money with the university. I mean, work on the facilities, which I mentioned. So I mean, yeah, I mean, the two big media markets of New York and Philly are definitely, like, I mean, yeah, like you said, the biggest, and probably like the fifth, or somewhere around there in terms of Philly. And like, if she was able to do that with LSU in New Orleans, like that media markets down there, I mean, imagine what she could do with these types of media markets, so much bigger. So I mean, like, we'll see how that all goes down. But I mean, I think obviously, I think overall the hires, really good hire in both in terms of experience, and then in terms of vision, in terms of like the business side of things, and then in terms of the alignment, with, President Tate, and both of them wanting the same types of things. But I think, like you said, I think the big thing is the NIL, the fundraising, making sure each program has the money that it needs to, recruit and to, retain athletes, to train properly, like all of that kind of stuff. I think it's going to be huge, because that's really what the difference is between like Rutgers and some of these bigger programs, is that they don't really have that kind of money. So I mean, if they can create a way to have it, recruit better players and athletes, and that's how they can achieve that goal of winning championships in the Big Ten nationally, competing for championships, like things like that as well.
Absolutely, it definitely seems like things are going in the right direction, and good and better things are on the horizon. Was there anything else you wanted to mention before we got out of here today?
I mean, I think that's pretty much, I mean, it's the main subject, obviously, but like, I think it also brings to an end like what's been kind of a difficult, like I said, a difficult kind of situation. But I think, obviously, I think it was like the ideal candidate to bring us into the new era and of athletics. And I think for a long time we've needed someone, kind of more modern minded, and to have like, the whole administration really behind athletics, I think is the big thing for Rutgers. But I think with this behind us, I mean, like, fall sports are going to be starting soon. Like, we have about a month till football season, soccer season even sooner. Like, Gonna be a lot of time to preview, make predictions, do all the fun stuff that comes along with that. So I mean, I'm really excited to see what this season has to bring.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to look forward to, especially as the season comes back around. At least for fall sports, it's all
Yeah.
smiles from here. I mean, wrestling comes back, football, uh, soccer has women's soccer has always been up there, so it's a lot of smiles when it comes to the fall sports.
Yeah.
Um, sorry, you mentioned I had something in oh my god, I had something in the back of my head. Um, but yeah, it finally seems like everything's rowing in the right direction. So hopefully we'll be able to keep it that way. I keep all the ducks in a row. But I think that will just about do it for us here today. We will have our normal weekly drop on either Sunday or Monday. Um, so make sure to tune into that episode. And as always, remember that the bells must ring.